Hello friends, welcome to Cloud Pedagogy. I'm pretty much excited to start with my second course on this channel. Thanks for joining me in the AWS Developer course. The public cloud, a mysterious, even scary place to many. So, before going this course, I would recommend you to know the basic cloud computing services in AWS. If not, please try to finish the AWS Cloud Computing Fundamental course in my channel. This developer course will guide you through all the topics you need to know and illuminate some you don't. Okay? We have implemented our student directory application in fundamental course with the basic services of AWS Cloud Computing. In this course, we are going to build Python Flash student application in AWS where we will use this application to answer many more of the questions about AWS services. So as the course progresses, we will address new challenges and features in this application and work with a series of AWS services to improve and refactor the application. Also, you get hands-on with different AWS services and get the application up and running. Together, we will answer some common questions along the way with the different ways with the different use cases by using these AWS services. Before getting into the AWS Developers course, let's brush up our knowledge with AWS Cloud Fundamental Essentials which are related to developers' perspective way. If you are a developer, you may ask yourself, why should I build on the AWS Cloud? So, why should developers want to develop on the AWS Cloud? It really doesn't matter what business you are in or what kind of data you are working with. The success of your business depends on the ability to build applications that run securely and reliably at a cost that scales as your requirements change. Amazon Web Services supplies you with a rich collection of cloud computing services accessed via the internet. This helps to empower you to run those applications. AWS provides compute, storage, database, analytics, and machine learning services which equip your organization to rapidly provision the resources it needs. Basically, everything you would want to do with a conventional data center, you can do with AWS. All of these services are available on a pay-as-you-go basis. You don't pay for anything before you actually use it. How cool is that? Right? Instead, you use access to highly durable storage services, low latency databases, and suite of application development tools that you only pay for as you are consuming them. Now let's see the benefits of AWS Cloud before you start to develop your application. Economies of scale. By using AWS, you are also able to take advantage of economies of scale that results from hundreds of thousands of customers across 190 countries, delivering powerful resources at a low operational cost. Capacity planning becomes easier too. You can eliminate guessing your capacity needs as well. That's right, you no longer have to guess your infrastructure capacity needs. When you make a capacity decision prior to deploying an application, you often either end up sitting on expensive idle resources or dealing with a limited capacity. With AWS, these problems can go away. You can access as much or as little as you need and scale in and out as required. That too with just only a few minutes notice. Customers report that the biggest performance improvements come from their own team's ability to bring innovative new features to market faster. Using AWS, development teams find that they are able to focus more on adding differentiated value for their own customers as opposed to spending so much time on the heavy lifting of racking and stacking servers. This is huge with regards to fostering innovation by making fresh ideas more feasible that were at one time considered out of reach. Next, you can also experiment more. Why? Because experimentation can be done quickly and in a low risk fashion. That's make it possible to try things without worrying about being constrained by cost or resources. Ideas that work can be deployed into production quickly. And you don't have to live with the collateral damage or cost of those that were not as successful. These days, most companies have end users all across the planet. With AWS, you can go global in minutes. AWS Multiple Geographic Regions lets you easily deploy your application in multiple locations across the world. This means you can provide a lower latency and better experience for your customers. That too simply at a minimal cost. As a developer, it's always preferred to spend the bulk of time writing code and being creative as opposed to worrying about servers and infrastructure. So once you start building your application on AWS, you can do exactly that. Next, do I have to pay for everything on AWS? Inevitably, the question arises, do I have to pay for everything on AWS? Well, AWS has a free tier, and we have worked on AWS fundamental course on how to use it. The AWS free tier allows you to gain hands-on experience with AWS for free. You can use some AWS services free of charge as long as you don't go over certain usage limits. It was designed to help you gain practical experience with a wide range of AWS services. Next thing is, what is the responsibility for AWS versus an developer? If you remember our deployment of student directory application in EC2, we did open port 80. So, should port 80 be open to the internet on my EC2 instance? And the answer to that question is maybe. If that instance is a web server, yes, the port should probably be open. However, that's an internal server or a database server, then no. You probably don't want to have that configuration. As we saw earlier in our student directory application, we learned that we can open up the ports on EC2 instance by modifying our security groups. And we can also use VPC to run our servers in a way that we could be disconnected from the internet. You get lots of flexibility to configure the resources for your applications in the AWS Cloud. And you'll be making these kinds of choices regularly because you are in control of your resources. With regards to security in the cloud, we use a shared responsibility of model. AWS provides you with secure building blocks for your application as well. For example, AWS manages and controls components from the physical security of facilities up through providing the host operating system and virtualization layer. AWS will also provide you with tools to help manage things like firewalls and encryption. You will be making choices about the guest operating system and the applications that you run on your virtual servers. And you will be on the hook for making sure that you have a strategy for patching that guest operating system and application stack. You are also responsible for configuring your application such that your end users can access it and any other configuration policies. AWS will also provide tools you can use to implement patching strategies such as AWS System Manager and will also give you some recommendations such as AWS Trusted Advisor. What's really great for helping development teams move quickly is, as we'll see later in the course, that using higher level services from AWS can help you reduce your responsibility. For example, if you use a service like RDS for managed databases, AWS can automatically apply patches to the guest operating system and the SQL engine on your behalf during a maintenance window you specify. And if you use AWS APIs like Amazon S3, all you have to focus on is calling the API and consider the access and encryption policies that you would like to use. So as a developer, you got to know the responsibility model between AWS and you. Next thing is, what does an AWS developer do? Thanks to cloud providers for shifting operations and infrastructure to the cloud. Systems and applications that used to run right down the hall in a server room are now hosted in a remote data center. One of these cloud providers is Amazon Web Services. Amazon Web Services is currently one of the most used cloud services providers in the market. The adoption of AWS shows no signs of slowing down. This growth means the demand for roles like AWS developers continues to increase. As with all digital solutions, you need people to work with, manage and improve them, which is where AWS developers come into play. An AWS developer is responsible for setting up, maintaining and evolving in the cloud infrastructure of applications. AWS developers are expected to understand the core AWS services and apply best practices regarding security and scalability. Beyond Amazon itself, plenty of companies employ AWS developers. It might be from software solution companies or production studios that require in-house help for their operations. And since AWS is used by such a diverse set of industries, it's a career path that comes with many job opportunities where your interests lie. That being said, the job involves a lot of specific skills, some of which are unique to the AWS platform. You will need to know programming languages like Java, Python, C#, as well as day-to-day skills. Let's see some scenarios where AWS developers are involved. Working with microservices. Microservices are elements of applications that the overall app uses to function. They can be assigned to different elements of the application, making it easier to add features and make changes to several elements simultaneously. As an AWS developer, you have to know how to work with these microservices and how to deploy them within the AWS platform to create business solutions. Next, set up monitoring systems. In an ideal world, an application functions as it should all the time, but in reality, errors happen. That's where monitoring comes in, to alert you when a problem arises, figure out what happened, and flag the systems it may have impacted. Monitoring also helps you perform root cause analysis, so you can pinpoint the system that caused the issue and fix it. If you can set up a reliable monitoring system, you will also be able to reduce the number and variety of cyber attacks. Monitoring helps an AWS developer spot breaches and other cyber attacks quickly, enabling admins to take actions. Migrating infrastructure. Infrastructure migration has gotten more and more popular as an increasing number of businesses have decided to move their systems to the cloud. Because AWS has so many tools, some businesses may want to hire you to migrate their existing infrastructure to AWS. Understanding the principles and practices that drive successful migration will be the key to your skill set. These are just few to discuss, but there are many more use cases that you may work on as a developer. Next, what skills do I need to be an AWS developer? An AWS developer needs several skills to succeed, like experience working with core AWS features and services, experience with cloud-based monitoring solutions, a solid understanding of cloud security tools, experience with maintaining or building applications in the cloud. We have already worked with these things in AWS Fundamentals of the course in this channel, but those are all just a head start as a beginner level for the AWS developer. In this course, you can dive into more AWS services that can be used when you are working as a developer. So, how to become an AWS developer? To become an AWS developer, you need to start with a foundation in building applications. Despite the variety of tasks an AWS developer may be called on to perform, development lies at the heart of it all, specifically because you will be designing or managing software solutions. But if you are totally new to the field, cloud pedagogy courses and career paths are a great place to start. These courses will give you the foundational knowledge you need to become comfortable designing and working on digital solutions. Courses like these will also make it easier to learn for you. I hope you find the learning interesting and informative. We'll meet again in the next session. Until then, take care.